Listen. So 2024 has been delivering insane blockbusters, and we're not even at the halfway point. Like, this one's mopping others in terms of colors, stunts, casting. Miss that scene. I don't know how George Miller's almost 80 directing scenes like this, while our presidents can't even direct themselves off the stage. This one's meant to be a spin-off to his Mad Max Saga that takes place 20 years before Fury Road, and was even written before that one, along with another prequel that's supposed to be focusing on Max.
So we had to write the story of Furiosa, and we also had to write story of the year of Max in the year before we encounter him in Fury Road. And so that's a story we have yet to tell.
Bruh, I really need that Wasteland movie with Hardy. Give me an old Mel Logan. Just keep giving Miller the green light, and my happy feet will drive wherever to witness it. Personally, look, it doesn't top Fury Road or even the legacy of Road Warrior, but it's a damn great time in the theater that it's definitely worth the combo price in my opinion. This is the prime example of what prequels and spin-offs should be, because if Furiosa was a side character in the other one and got her own movie, then I expected the men to spin off expeditiously.
Start your engines!
Let me explain. So the movie begins 20 years before Fury Road, or as Miller puts it,
50 years from next Wednesday, let's say.
Pretty much the world has lost power, money, water, cities. Everyone's got more Half-Life than Valve Corp. But there's a spot known as the Green Place that's still thriving. As Chapter 1 puts it, they're at the pole of inaccessibility, meaning they've been far enough away, which has always helped them to survive, until, in between these movies, all these numbnuts find a way to actually pump enough gas so that they can get out there.
You've come too far.
We then meet young Furiosa reaching for a fruit in what's considered the forbidden place right outside their zone. And as the trailer shows us, it turns her world from black and white to color when she grabs it, putting her on the eve of learning about good and evil. Plus, she's out there with her friend Valkyrie, who she ends up reuniting with in Fury Road.
This is our Furiosa.
How long has it been?
7,000 days. Plus the ones I don't remember.
Baby Osa then gets kidnapped by some lurkers who snatch her up in hopes of getting a promotion to go from scum to less scum, but she's able to blow a warning whistle that calls back to that one from Thunderdome. We then see two of the Vuvolini, which are the mothers that run the Green Place, and it includes Chris Hemsworth's wife, Elsa, who actually plays two roles in the movie, including one of his minions, so you can call it a family affair. But that said, even though she's the general and tells Mary that it should be anyone but you, Mary is Furiosa's actual mother, so she leaves being a leader behind in order to go rescue her daughter, and literally kills it.
Ah, she's your mother.
The goons then take her back to their leader, Dementus, whose crew is a far cry from being the best, but he does have the organic mechanic that ends up with Immortan Joe in Fury Road. He combines forces with another gang run by this dude known as the Octoboss. He's got a prosthetic Cooper Snooper to sniff anyone who's bad out. Mother Mary then sneaks in with one of their costumes, but makes the worst mistake in letting one of them live, because that lady snitches immediately, causing a chase down this Fury path. Since Mary knows that they're not going to make it out, she says goodbye to Furiosa and gives her the seed in order to plant it in the future.
Promise me you'll find your way home.
And then she doesn't. Man, girl made me Furiosa when she doubled back. After capturing the mom, Dementus also captures young Fury as he makes her watch her mom get tortured, putting her up on a stake and even burning her like Salem, which when you watch Fury Road, you realize it was a lot worse.
What happened to your mother? She died on the third day.
It then cuts to Chapter 2, which is the lessons from the Wasteland, where preteen Osa learns her lessons from the Wasteland and how bad things are outside the Green Place. She sees how Dementus gathers people and makes them kill themselves in order to join their clan, just like the Joker did. She watches him chow down on human sausage. She's dropping that teddy bear alongside her innocence, but she does befriend the history man that he keeps around, who's like his walking memento, who explains everything to him. And since he's tatted all of his knowledge on himself, she decides to draw the stars in her arm that map out to the Green Place.
Goods, the bullocks, the testes to ride with Dementus.
Now listen, I hate Chris Hemsworth. You're telling me you can be this good and you were doing Ghostbusters?
That is true.
Like, his style's all over the place. Man's got a leg brace that he probably repurposed from Max since he used to have one. He walks around with a Build-A-Bear on his back. One pupil's bigger than the other. And he's got this motor chariot that he rides around like Ben-Hur. Since it turns out that Australian police back in the day used to actually patrol with some of these. Not to mention, Chris's own dad was a part of a biker gang.
Well, which was all the stunt riders from the original film.
They end up finding one of the war boys with an arrow in his head, right in the middle of the desert, so just another Tuesday. But he leads them back to Immortan Joe's place that we saw in Fury Road, known as the Citadel. And D really thinks he's going to infiltrate this place.
And throw them down.
And just to flex on them and remind the audience who's the one who actually makes it to the sequel, the first thing Joe does is to tell them to eeny, meeny, miny, moe a minion to prove that his soldiers are ready to die for him on command.
Wanted.
He's like Kaiser Soze, but they pull their own trigger. He then gets Waternoose, the first here, to announce the battle as they tow these trucks faster than San Francisco. Everyone's skedaddling, but my mind was so focused on this just super intricate world. You know, this franchise that's lasted over 40 years in the culture, something that serves as a metaphor for our times. And we've got characters named Scrotus and Rectus. Now, I don't know what happened to Joe's third son that we saw in the other movie, but it's so funny how Miller has won Oscars while also writing in Beavis and Butthead names.
I watched some extended South Park. And
What I was expecting.
that's really high-end storytelling to me.
Hey, real recognize real. Funny enough, this dude doesn't take it as a loss, but as a time for a costume change. Now he's donning the red cape and the red beard. We also get a little breakdown of this new world map that's run by Joe, where he has the Citadel. Then there's Gasoline Town that fuels everything, the bullet farm that arms everyone. So it is kind of interesting to see a part of Joe that's acting like a wasteland regional manager that's trying to keep it all together.
Almost like, if I could put it this way, a corporate CEO under a lot of pressure. This is a very different side to him.
The Mentis then snatches a plan to Trojan tank his way into Gas City by pretending to kill his own, and then actually killing his own in order to sell it. It leads him right inside where he's able to cut off the leader's finger, and he mails it back to Joe, who is technically his brother, so that they can talk business.
You behave, I'll behave.
The deal goes off with a hitch, just like his nipples, but in getting Gasoline Town, he has to also sell Furiosa and give up his doctor.
Who's that? He looks pale. You look pale. She's perfect. Not like the genetic absurdities you have for son.
And look, every actor is working 100%, even if they're bokeh out in the background. You got Walton Noggins over here, who knows he won't make it to the sequel, but is giving it his all. There's the Rev conductor that introduces D like he's running a symphony. And Rectus, he's even creepier here than when he was drinking his mother's milk. He decides to creep in on Furiosa, who's already 2 movies ahead and has weaved herself a wig in order to escape his grasp. And after a cliffside time lapse, she just becomes one of the gear guys working her way up the ranks after she's disappeared. And I guess they just blamed it on Rectus for being a dumbass and losing her. What's crazy is that Anya doesn't appear till like an hour into the movie, until you look up some interviews and it turns out that she was technically there the whole time.
That whoever the 2 actors that had to play her, that transition had to be seamless. So we don't actually look that much alike. It's AI, which is really crazy. So they were able to composite our faces together, and it works on a scale. So at the beginning of the movie, it's 35% my face, and then it goes all the way up to 80.
Wow.
No kidding. It's wild.
On top of that, she's got like 30 lines of dialogue, which is kind of a lot when you remember that Max had like 16 in Road Warrior. But I think that Anya kills it, because there are actors who know how to cry on command. This woman bleeds on command.
Did you really get a nosebleed from here?
Yeah.
She's not working for the pit crew that clears the tanker to go on the Fury Road without any of these new mutants questioning why she's the least radioactive. But she's pretty much become a thoroughbred when it comes to trucks and knows them inside and out. And that's when we get the biggest stunt scene of the movie that took
like 77 days, that kind of 15-minute sequence.
One of the sequences took 79 days to shoot, and there were 264 women and men on that stunt department.
78 days, bud. 78 days.
And it was worth it. It's actually the Octoboss going against the Mentis because he sucks as a leader and they're trying to take the goods before they get delivered. So he's got paratroopers firing from the top. He's gliding in with his own balloon mascot. But it's the new character of Praetorian Jack who's escaping them by driving that semi like a slinky. For whatever reason, though, they decided to keep Anya's hair longer than Rapunzel's, which I feel she would have cut it just to stay down low, you know, for stealth, hygiene. I love this movie, but this shot looked like she was in an Herbal Essence commercial. Eventually, Furiosa kills the Octoboss with one of the coolest shots of the movie, where she grinds him up with none of her hair getting caught in the process. Mad Mullet then decides to keep her alive, but drops her off on the side of the road, only to park ahead and walk back to her.
Keep it. You'll need it.
It's also crazy that this role almost went to Yahya Abdul-Mateen before he left due to scheduling, but as much as I wanted to see him, I'm not complaining because I got to see him on Broadway. This is also the first big silence of the movie that gave the speakers a rest, because Junkie XL's score is still maxed out for this. He said that on top of composing, that he was also doing some of the mixing for the movie, because you can even see the truck horns sounded just like the theme. I saw it in IMAX, but it felt like Dolby with all the rumbling, only to find out it was the dudes in the front row bumping like they were at a concert. And it was cool how he explained that the music only plays from Furiosa's point of view, so there's none if we're not experiencing the scene through her.
This place, at the end of your map of secrets. I want to help you find it.
Chapter 4 is called Homeward, where after being under Jack's apprenticeship, he's ready to let her go and even gives her a shotgun and everything so that she can find her way back home. But the Mantis is still acting like a giant kid throwing tantrums in the desert and ruins it again. At this point, everyone's complaining about Big D because he's behind on production, and everyone in his team is whispering he deserves it. But like Earth 616, he marvels at how much more he can get, even if he's not worthy of it.
A lot of stuff. A lot of good stuff.
That's why the few he still has have helped him break into the bullet farm, which is a farm where they make bullets, and he's got his minions chanting like they're ultras. Dude's sporting the last guy's jacket, like he just marched down the Black Parade, and doesn't even realize that it's Furiosa who's there because he's too busy with his monster truck upgrade. Jack and her end up getting stuck at the bullet farm when they realize that it's gone to the dogs, and Jack gets trapped inside with the truck as Furiosa tries to snipe them from around the perimeter. Somehow she survives a bazooka launch, keeping both of her arms. Jack gets rescued before sinking the semi, and Chris almost lands on lava like he was back in Ragnarok. Dementus then takes his Tonka trunk and breaks his own gate as he chases after them, setting up a Fury Road 2. 0.5.
So full of hope.
You know, hope is a mistake.
This is where we get the biggest answer from Fury Road, and that's her getting her arm completely grinded by this jumbo wheel as she's driving off. They both then get captured, with her getting hung up by like 1.5 arms, and Mad Max getting dragged around like the earlier bike ritual. And that kind of sucks because I kind of like them as a duo.
Anya said it rather brilliantly. Rather than falling in love with her, he falls in love with her sense of this place she wants to get to.
She then takes off their wheels after taking off her arm from the chains and rides off into the horizon where she ends up fainting. That's where we get a Mad Max cameo as he's snacking on dog food like he did in Road Warrior. But what's interesting is that he's played by Jacob Tamori, who was Hardy's stunt double in the last one, and now he's the stunt coordinator for this movie. On top of that, Anya's fall guy was a literal stunt double because she would be doing one scene while the second unit was doing another with Haley Wright, and then they said they even had an extra one.
We had 3 units running at all times, and it just helps you have placement in your world if you're able to see footage from all of them.
After knocking out in the desert, I'm assuming that Max helped her out to get her to the underground lady that we got a glimpse of earlier in the movie, and she heals her wounds with a bunch of maggots. She then starts working with Joe to catch the Mentis, which leads to her being so regarded at the start of Fury Road, before turning on him. Even in the comic, it shows that Joe calls her his greatest warrior because she took out the enemy of their enemy.
If you find him, he's moving.
Dementus then rallies the troops to go get the land that they just found out about, but claims it's his. Now what's crazy is that he really thinks that what he's saying is real.
Oh, he's Karl Marx.
We then get a montage of what's considered the 40-day Wasteland War, because the movie was like already pushing 2.5 hours, making it the longest. But I'm hoping that they do make this into like either a video game or an anime. I know they previously had plans to do different mediums, because this is like a whole mini-series. This could be like a Band of Brothers in the Wasteland story that they can cover. That said, Guitar Duke does get to make a cameo.
It was intellectual, philosophical rock and roll opera.
That
I finally got it.
Furiosa then shaves her head with a bald cap and puts together her super duper cool robot arm, which he made by snatching a piece from this wheelchair. Again, that's supposed to be Joe's third son, but I don't know where he is because he's not in this movie. He's somewhere else, even though he left his ride behind. But either way, it ends up being a nice play on Furiosa becoming less human and literally more machine as she re-enters the wasteland.
What was that?
That is the darkest of angels.
Fueled by grief, she ends up seeking out a car, and we get to see Chum Bucket, who's actually a character from the Mad Max video game, which I just bought for $5 and would highly recommend it because it's fantastic. And not only does it expand on his character, but it actually also shows Scrotus and why he didn't appear in Fury Road, even mentioning the crossover with the Mentis in his bio. So again, Miller had this mapped out from the start. Chum Bucket ends up showing her this model from like Victory Auto Records, but it's funny because that would become the new shell for the semi that we see in Fury Road. It also mirrors the first movie, where they present the car to Max in order to keep him on the force.
Go for a ride.
The final chapter is then titled Beyond Vengeance, as she drives her Cruella V8 out into the desert to find Dementus, who's down to just a couple of minions and a mannequin, which she probably recycled from the first movie also.
George has this saying, which is found items repurposed. So absolutely everything that you see on screen is something that has a story, has a reason for being there. There's absolutely nothing superfluous.
After escaping yet another sinking sand hole, she corners Dementus in the desert, looking like a ghost up in the horizon, which just looks so cool. Like her in the sand, I can only imagine her being in Dune. She then gives what I guess is considered her catchphrase for the series.
Remember me.
Guess it's a prequel in a prequel. But after stealing his tires, his ammo, and the dignity he never had, she calls out for the people she lost, knowing good and well that they're gone.
My mother. My childhood.
And that's when the Mentis gives this speech about hope and hate, that he too had his family taken away, and the only way that he survived in the wasteland was by outdoing all the evil that was already out there, that the scales of suffering will never be balanced.
Is Chris Hemsworth the villain in Furiosa?
No, just kidding.
Well, I mean, to be...
Not in his own eyes.
Yeah.
A big part of the ending isn't just that it flips the script on, the usual blockbuster CGI explosions that we get to wrap things up, but that it's the bad guy holding up a mirror for the revenge plot. Even him saying that if she does this, then she'll become just like him. And that's something that George Miller's brought up.
Yesterday's hero becomes today's tyrant.
Even the many mothers protected the green place by killing anyone who escaped or found out about it. The score even flips the Mentis' theme to play over her when she has to make that decision.
When we see the Mentis, we see how she sees the Mentis. And so that darkest of gods, the way that she sees him, at first you might think, oh, that's his theme. And then eventually she becomes it. And she takes it from him because she is becoming it.
So it'll be interesting to see where he takes Furiosa's story when she is the one running the Citadel.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
After hearing him and taunting him, she then sets up to do the coolest thing in the world by revving up this mini motor engine she put inside her robot arm. And right when she's about to steampunk him, she just snatches off his teddy bear. What are you, a claw machine? But that causes him to finally remember her.
Happiness. You crawled out of a pitiless grave deeper than hell.
We then get different takes on what might have happened with her either shooting him or stringing him up to a tree, mutilating him, but it all pushes this idea of mythology and who gets to tell the story. That's something that we saw in Road Warrior, where it's being recounted by the kid in the movie. The History Man does it in the comic, and he does it here, and he's the one who mentions that Furiosa whispered to him the truth, which was that they ended up turning him into the soil that she needed to finally plant her seed. In other words, they went from milking mothers to planting Big D's nuts.
Got him!
In the end, they pull a reverse Rocky and give you the LME on what's about to happen and fast forward as she drives off furiously into the next sequel that already came out.
The one thing that I still do not have is an actual driver's license.
Girl, you've been on Fury Road and Rainbow Road. Thank you all for watching this video. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below in the comments section. I thought this movie was incredible. I know that even in the credits, they tease a couple of stuff like Nexus bobblehead, which, I guess no body, no crime, but unless he survived that insane crash, I'm assuming that either Max or Furiosa took it for their dashboard. The credits also had a memorial for those who passed while working on the movie, and it was titled Vol. That's just like a really nice touch. And again, I think it's all the details in these movies that really make them stand out.
The beginning of every take would start with the first, AD saying, start your engines.
That's why I'm really hoping that we get a follow-up and just a lot more expansions to this world, not just sequels and prequels, just anything really. I thought that, again, the comic, the game, they're all really good, but it seems like WB ain't messing around when it comes to the box office.
Try this one on me again. I do not enjoy wasting money.
As for Anya, Miller mentioned watching One Night in Soho and talking to Edgar Wright about her, who just straight up said, hey, yo, whatever it is, cast her. She could do anything. And she nailed it, even down to the outfits on the red carpet. They had her walking around like Tizo. I thought she was incredible in this movie. I don't think she passed Theron, but in my opinion, I don't think anybody else would have come close. So I am really curious to see more on the behind the scenes because besides the AI technique that they used for the younger one, where they put her face on her, I'm really curious about the voice because there were moments where she really did sound like Charlize. Like they had her dropping her voice so low, it sounded like the Cookie Monster. Porky! But it's also funny that in the comic, it shows how the seed that she plants is a peach. So it was almost like meant to be for Anya. Overall, I thought she did a great job. So hearing people be against her and like not wanting her to lead the movie, look, there are plenty of movies nowadays that you can call out as bait. Man, this ain't one of them. Y'all really got Anya doing press for your feelings.
It's not about men suck. That's not what we're talking about.
As for Hemsworth, again, he's a standout in this for me. Chris talked about expanding that teddy bear, not just for the characters like lore and what happened during the fallout, but that Chris's own parents were social workers, so he added like a whole psychological level to it.
So we had to go back and figure out Dementis' story.
Again, these movies just have the best side characters, side quests, side quells. So I'm just curious to know your thoughts on this one, how you'd rank the whole series. I do want to make a bigger video covering all of them. And honestly, any other summer movies that you're looking forward to, let me know down below in the comments section. Until next time, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll send you some mother's milk.